Well, welcome to Thought for the Day. It's been some time since I've sat here recording one. I've been away on holiday. I had a great time, and I'm sure I'll tell you some of the stories of that in future Thoughts for the Day. But what I want to talk to you about is actually something that happened since we came back, and it is that today I got a new phone number. Let me tell you how it happened. After the service yesterday, I was talking to a young man who'd stopped in and listened to some of the service, and it was quite an exciting conversation, really. He was telling me about how God was at work in his life, how he found some things quite a challenge, and how he wanted to make a new start with Jesus. It was a really, I was really excited to hear what God was doing. We talked a bit more, prayed for him, and before he left, we exchanged phone numbers. Well, actually, we didn't exchange phone numbers. We did what you do nowadays. He gave me his phone number. I sent him a text so that he had my number. And I was looking forward to getting back in touch with him later in the week to take things a bit further and see where it was going to go. And then this morning, I saw him outside outside vicarage, and I went out to see him, and he was quite troubled. He said, "I saw your phone number. And how can you have a phone number like that?" I said, because it's 07806 661 811, and he says, "It's got 666 in the middle of it. You ought to be changing that." And I said, "Well, actually, I've had it a long time. When I was given the number with the three sixes together, I wasn't terribly happy with it, but I thought, well, Jesus is stronger than this. This isn't, although the number of the beast is 666, just having 666 in your phone number doesn't give you the mark of the beast." And so, although I wasn't happy about it, I said, I'm not going to bother changing it, and I've had that number for a long time. But he wasn't satisfied with this. He was really quite troubled. He'd been struggling with evil in different forms. He'd been battling against it, and in his mind, this seemed to just undermine everything he was doing. It certainly meant he couldn't trust me. We couldn't pursue our conversation about where God was leading him, and he left very, very unhappy. I wasn't able to continue the conversation. I went away and had to think about it. And I reminded myself why I accepted that phone number over the years. But it also reflected on what Paul said when he wrote to the church in Corinth. The church in Corinth was troubled about all sorts of things. There was food sacrificed to idols. There was discussion about whether you should eat it or not. All sorts of things were going on. And Paul says, he says, I think we're free to do any of these things. God is stronger than any of these things. But he said, if what you're doing troubles somebody else, troubles someone who is newer in the faith, troubles someone whose conscience feels it's wrong, then you should do it. You should stop doing it. It's not because you can't, but because it troubles that person. He was talking about what he eats, and he says in 1 Corinthians 8:13, he says, therefore, if what I eat causes my brother or sister to fall into sin, I will never eat meat again, so that I won't cause them to fall. And I thought about it, and I thought, this is the 21st century equivalent of exactly what Paul was doing. Having a phone number that contains the 666, which is in the book of Revelation, that the number of the beast, is just like in Paul's day, going to a temple and an idol's temple and eating in the cafe there. You might be free to do it, but if it troubles someone else, stop doing it. So I changed my phone number. If any of you got my old phone number, can you get in touch with me? I'll give you my new number, and you'll be able to get in touch with me. I got back in touch with the young man, and he was delighted, and I think our relationship is strengthened. But I think it's a lesson, isn't it, in really doing things out of love, not out of what I'm free to do, but what actually blesses my brother or sister. So may God bless you through today, and may He lead you in His paths, even if they lead to quite surprising decisions. I'll speak to you again later in the week.